There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't sting right away. It seeps in slowly, crawling under your skin until it reaches the place where your pride lives. That night, sitting at my parents' dinner table, I heard my father lean toward my sister and whisper words I wasn't supposed to catch. Living with her will be chaos. My fork didn't pause. My face didn't flinch. I just kept cutting into my chicken like I hadn't heard a thing, even though every word landed like glass breaking inside my chest. Rowena laughed softly, that pitying sound she makes when she thinks someone's beneath her. I know, Dad. Don't worry. I'm not offering. The classical music hummed from the speakers. The polished silverware clinked against Mom's good china. Everything looked perfect, civilized, right? But underneath it all was that old tension, thick as humidity before a storm. I smiled. Not a big smile. Just a small one, the kind nobody notices. Because what they didn't know, sitting there in their pressed clothes and their matching opinions, was that I'd been planning something for months. Something that would shatter every assumption they'd built about me. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. My name is Alara Mendez and I've always been the odd one out. Not because I was cruel or lazy or lost, but because I refused to live by the script my parents wrote for me. Success in their world meant conformity. Marry the right person, stay close to home, never make waves. I did the opposite of all three. When Dad had knee surgery 2 months ago, I moved back to help. I thought maybe the years apart had softened things between us. That maybe they'd finally see me differently. Tonight proved otherwise. The evening started like every Mendez family gathering. Mom insisted on classical music because it made everything civilized. Rowena arrived first with her husband, both dressed like they'd walked out of a magazine. I wore jeans and a white blouse. Comfortable. Real. Dad's glance said everything his mouth didn't. I passed the breadbasket around, trying to ignore the weight of their judgment. For a few minutes, we played the game. Polite smiles. Small talk. Clinking glasses. Then Dad cleared his throat. So, Rowena, how's the new house coming along? Her smile was practiced perfect. Oh, wonderful, Dad. The contractors finished the pool last week. We're moving in next month. Mom clasped her hands together. That's lovely, sweetheart. Your father and I were talking, and it'll be good to have a guest room ready. I froze. Guest room? Mom's smile turned too sweet, the kind that means trouble. Yes, dear. Just in case you need somewhere to stay for a while. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Everyone understood it except, apparently, the woman they were talking about, as if she weren't sitting right there. I have a place, I said simply. Dad nodded, but wouldn't look at me. Sure. For now. The rest of dinner blurred into Rowena talking about her home gym and Mom praising her for making good choices. I listened, cut my food, pretended not to notice how Dad's eyes avoided mine every time he poured wine. Then Mom stood to refill her glass. And that's when it happened. Dad leaned closer to Rowena. His voice dropped low, but not low enough. I was right there, 3 feet away, perfectly visible. Living with her will be chaos. You know how she is. Unpredictable, emotional. She'll drain you. The words settled into my bones like cold metal. But I didn't react. Didn't blink. Just let them think I hadn't heard while my mind started calculating everything I was about to reveal. Because what they didn't know, what none of them had bothered to ask about in 2 years, was what I'd been building in the silence they mistook for failure. 2 years ago, I was fired from my corporate job. Not for incompetence. For refusing to take the fall for someone else's mistake. It was humiliating. The kind of setback that made my parents whisper about me at church and tell distant cousins I was finding myself. But what they never asked was what I did next. I took my severance pay, my small savings, and built something. Started small with a friend's condo. Then a restaurant. Then high-end properties across the state. Within 18 months, I was managing a team of 10, designing luxury homes that sold for millions. But I kept it quiet. No announcements. No social media updates. Just work and results. And now, hearing my father call me chaos, I realized the moment to speak had finally arrived. When dessert came, Mom brought out her famous lemon pie. The same one she made for every celebration and every reminder that I wasn't measuring up. "You remember," she said to Rowena, "when Alara tried to bake? That poor cake looked like it had been run over." Laughter. Not mean, just careless. The kind that forgets how words cut. I smiled again. Actually, baking turned out fine, but design went better. Dad raised an eyebrow. Design. Home design. I slid my phone across the table. "That's the lake house project I finished last week." Rowena glanced at the screen, and her eyes went wide. "Wait, this is yours."
Yeah.
Client gave me full creative control. Mom leaned in, squinting. "That looks like the Rivera estate." "It was," I replied calmly. "Until they sold it. I helped redesign and stage it for sale. It closed for $4 million. The room went completely quiet. I took another sip of water, deliberately slow. "I bought something with part of the profit." "What do you mean?" Rowena's voice tightened. I looked directly at Dad. "You remember the old farmhouse by Willow Creek?" His face shifted through confusion, recognition, disbelief. "The one we sold off years ago?" "I bought it back," I said softly. "Renovated it too." Mom blinked. "That property was worthless." "Not anymore. It's worth $1.3 million now." I paused. "I live there." The silence that followed hummed in my ears and made the air feel heavier than stone. Because what they didn't know is that buying back that house, the one my family abandoned, wasn't just about success. It was about something far deeper, something that had been burning inside me since the day they gave up on it. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you most? Drop a comment below. 2 years earlier, I sat in a glass office on the 42nd floor, staring at my boss across his mahogany desk while my career burned to ash. "We need someone to take responsibility, Alara. The client is furious." My hands were steady, even though my heart was racing. But I didn't approve those numbers. Marcus did. He leaned back, fingers steepled like he was delivering a sermon. "Marcus has been with us for 15 years. You've been here 3. Do the math." That's when I understood. This wasn't about truth. It was about convenience, about sacrifice, about who mattered and who didn't. I walked out that afternoon with a cardboard box and a severance check that felt more like hush money than compensation. The security guard wouldn't meet my eyes as I passed through the lobby for the last time. Outside, the city noise hit me like a slap. Cars honking, people rushing past. The world kept moving like nothing had happened, but my entire identity had just collapsed. I called my mom that night. Mistake. "Oh, Alara." Her sigh carried disappointment heavier than words. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything." "That's the problem." "Well, something must have happened. Companies don't just fire good employees." There it was. The assumption that I'd failed. That I'd messed up somehow. That this was my fault for not being careful enough, smart enough, compliant enough. Dad got on the phone next. "Maybe this is a sign you should come home. Settle down. Your sister's doing so well with her marketing job. Stable. Respectable. Stable. Respectable. Code words for not like you." I hung up feeling smaller than I had in years. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment surrounded by half-packed boxes, wondering if they were right. If I was the problem. If chaos really did follow me everywhere. Then I looked at my severance check sitting on the coffee table. $43,000. Not much, but something. The anger started small, a spark in my chest. Then it grew. Burned hotter. Transformed into something sharper, cleaner. Determination. I grabbed my laptop and started researching. Interior design courses. Business licenses. Client acquisition strategies. I read until my eyes burned and dawn light crept through the windows. Within a week, the whispers started. My parents told relatives I was between opportunities. Aunt Gloria asked if I'd consider going back to school. Cousin Martin sent me job listings for entry-level positions. At church, I overheard Mrs. Patterson tell my mother, "Such a shame about Alara. She had so much potential." Had. Past tense. Like I was already finished. But while they whispered, I worked. Took online courses at night. Studied portfolio after portfolio of successful designers. Learned about staging, lighting, spatial flow. Watched my savings account shrink while my knowledge grew. 3 months in, I was eating ramen for the 4th night in a row when doubt crept back in. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was delusional. Maybe this was just another failure waiting to happen. I stared at my empty apartment, at the design sketches scattered across my floor, at the future I was trying to build from nothing. That night, I made a promise. Whispered it out loud to the empty room like a vow. I'll never let them define me again. I didn't know it then, but that promise would carry me through everything that came next. Through rejection and doubt, and nights when giving up felt easier than breathing. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself from scratch? Tell us in the comments. The cafe smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. I was sitting there with my laptop, scrolling through freelance design sites, trying to figure out how to land my first real client. My bank account had $3,000 left. Rent was due in 2 weeks. The pressure sat on my chest like concrete. A woman at the next table was talking loudly on her phone. Normally I'd tune it out, but something in her voice caught my attention. I don't care what the contractor says. The space looks terrible. Cold. Uninviting. Like a doctor's office, not a home. She paused, listening. No, I've called 3 designers already. They're either booked for months or want $20,000 just to start. I need someone good who can work fast. My heart started pounding. This was it. One of those moments that felt like the universe testing whether you'd actually fight for what you wanted. I took a breath and stood up. Walked over to her table before fear could stop me. Excuse me. I couldn't help overhearing. I'm a designer. She looked up, skeptical. Early 50s, expensive coat, eyes that said she'd heard every pitch before. You have a portfolio? I pulled on my laptop right there, showed her the 3 projects I'd completed. A friend's condo redesign. My own apartment transformation. A small cafe I'd helped stage for reopening. She studied each image carefully. These are good. Really good. But they're small projects. Everyone starts somewhere, I said. And I promise you, I'll work harder than anyone you've interviewed. I need this. Something in her expression shifted. Maybe she heard the hunger in my voice. Maybe she remembered being young and desperate herself. My daughter's selling her condo. It's been on the market for 3 months with no offers. I think the staging is the problem. She pulled out her phone. Come look at it tomorrow. If I like your ideas, we'll talk numbers. I left that cafe floating 6 inches off the ground. Finally, a real chance. The condo was a disaster. Beige walls, heavy furniture, dark curtains blocking natural light. It felt like a cave, not a home, but I could see past it. Saw what it could become with the right touches. Light paint. Strategic mirrors. Furniture arranged to maximize flow and space. Give me 2 weeks and $5,000, I told her. I'll make this place sell. She handed me the check 3 days later. I worked like someone possessed. Painted until my arms ached. Sourced furniture from discount stores and estate sales. Rearranged, adjusted, perfected every detail. When it was done, the space looked like something from a magazine. Bright. Welcoming. Expensive. The condo sold in 4 days. $20,000 over asking price. The woman called me, voice vibrating with excitement. Whatever you did, it worked. My daughter's ecstatic. Then came the question that changed everything. Would you be interested in another project? My friend owns a restaurant that's struggling. She needs a complete redesign. I said yes before she finished the sentence. That restaurant led to a boutique hotel. The hotel led to a lawyer's office. The lawyer knew a real estate agent who needed staging services. 6 months in, I had a waiting list, but I kept it quiet. Didn't post on social media. Didn't tell my family. Just worked and saved and built something solid underneath all their doubt. My parents called occasionally. Always the same questions. Found a job yet? Any interviews? You know, Rowena's company is hiring. I'd say I was working on some projects. They'd make polite noises and change the subject. In their minds, I was still floundering. Still the chaos daughter who couldn't get her life together. Let them think it. I was too busy becoming someone they wouldn't recognize. One afternoon, a man in an expensive suit walked into a property I was staging. He studied my work for 20 minutes without saying a word. Finally, he handed me a business card. I manage high-end properties, luxury homes, the kind that need more than just furniture arrangement. I looked at the card. Premium real estate, million-dollar listings. I have a client selling an estate. 8,000 square feet. Lake views. It's been sitting for 6 months because it photographs badly. Can you handle something that big? Every instinct screamed yes. But I forced myself to think. This was different. Bigger stakes. Serious money. What's the budget? I asked. 50,000 for staging and design. Another 50 if it sells within 60 days. My hands went cold. $100,000. More than I'd made in the last year combined. I can handle it, I said. He smiled. Good. I'll send you the details tomorrow. That one call changed everything. Though no one in my family would hear about it. When was the last time you took a risk that terrified you? Drop a comment below. The estate was massive. Stone facade. Sweeping driveway. Windows that looked out over water, so blue it hurt to stare at. But inside it felt dead. Previous owners had left it filled with dark wood furniture, heavy drapes, and the kind of formal stuffiness that made you afraid to sit down. I walked through every room twice, making notes, visualizing, planning. My team had grown to 4 people by then. Marcus, who handled construction details. Sophia, my staging expert. James, who had an eye for lighting. And me, holding it all together. We worked for 3 weeks straight, ripped out dark curtains and replaced them with sheer whites that let sunlight flood every corner. Painted accent walls. Brought in modern furniture that made the space feel lived in instead of museum-like. The transformation was stunning. Even I was shocked. The estate sold in 2 weeks. For $1 million. My client handed me the bonus check with a genuine smile. You made me look good. I'll be calling you again. That project opened doors I didn't know existed. Suddenly, I was the designer people whispered about at cocktail parties. The one who could take a property nobody wanted and turn it into something everyone fought over. I hired 6 more people, rented office space, built a website that showcased my work without mentioning my name anywhere my family might stumble across it. Money started rolling in. Real money. The kind that let me stop checking my bank account 3 times a day and actually breathe. But I still kept quiet. Rowena posted constantly about her marketing job, her promotion, her awards. Mom shared every single post with pride radiating from every comment. I liked them. Stayed silent. Kept building. One evening, I was reviewing proposals when a notification popped up. An email from a client I'd worked with months earlier. Ilara, I have a property you need to see. Call me. The property turned out to be an old farmhouse. Abandoned. Windows broken. Roof sagging in places. But the location made my breath catch. Willow Creek. I'd driven past this place 1,000 times as a kid. It belonged to my family once. Dad sold it after his business struggled. Said it was worthless. Too remote. Too damaged. Standing there now, looking at the bones of the house, I saw something else entirely. Potential. History. Home. How much? I asked. The agent named a price that made my stomach drop. Then I looked at my business account. At the money I'd been saving for something important. This was it. This was what I'd been working toward without knowing it. I'll take it. The purchase went through in 3 weeks. The day I got the keys, I sat in the empty living room and cried. Not sad tears. Something bigger. Relief. Victory. Homecoming. I hired the best contractors I knew. Told them I wanted it perfect. Every detail mattered because this wasn't just another project. This was mine. We rebuilt the roof. Replaced every window. Refinished the original hardwood floors that had been hiding under decades of neglect. Restored the stone fireplace. Added modern touches, while keeping the soul of the house intact. 6 months later it was finished. Worth over $1 million. And I owned it outright. No mortgage. No help. Just me. I moved in on a Saturday. Walked through rooms I designed, touching walls I'd chosen, standing in a home I'd built from ruin.
My phone rang. Mom.
Alara, honey, Dad's having knee surgery next week. Could you come stay for a bit? Help out. I looked around my house. My accomplishment. My proof. Sure, Mom. I can do that. Part of me wondered if I should tell them now. About everything. About the business. The house. The life I'd built. But something held me back. Some instinct that whispered, not yet. I didn't know it then, but that farmhouse, the one my family abandoned, wasn't just my project. It was my redemption. Have you ever gone back for something everyone else gave up on? Tell us your story. Workers found the photo on a Tuesday morning, tucked under rotted floorboards in what used to be the dining room. Maria called me over, holding it carefully. Boss, you need to see this. The photo was old. Edges yellowed. Colors faded. But I recognized every face. Mom and Dad, younger than I'd ever seen them. Dad's arm around Mom, both of them smiling at the camera. And standing between them, maybe 4 years old, was me. Pigtails. Gap-toothed grin. Holding a toy hammer like it was treasure. We were standing right here. In this house. Before they sold it. Before everything changed. My throat went tight. I'd forgotten this place was ours once. Forgotten the summers we spent here before Dad's business collapsed. Before money got tight and hard decisions had to be made. This house held memories I'd buried. Picnics by the creek.
Dad teaching me to fish.
Mom humming while she cooked. Rowena and me catching fireflies at dusk. Back when we were happy. Before success became the only thing that mattered. I held that photo for a long time, workers moving around me, until Marcus gently asked if I was okay. Yeah, I said. Keep going. I want this place perfect. Because suddenly this project meant more than proving myself. It was about reclaiming something we'd lost. About bringing back what they'd given up on. Not just the house, but us. The family we used to be. The renovation took on new meaning after that. Every detail became personal. I chose paint colors I remembered from childhood. Found vintage fixtures that matched the ones we'd had. Created spaces that honored what was while building something new. The kitchen became my favorite room. Modern appliances hidden behind vintage cabinet fronts. An island big enough for family dinners. Windows overlooking the creek where Dad used to take me fishing. I could picture it. Everyone gathered around. Laughing. Talking. Connected. Maybe that's why I said yes when Mom called about Dad's surgery. Maybe I was hoping things could be different now. I packed a bag the night before I was supposed to head to their place. Looked around my finished house. Everything I'd accomplished was right here. Proof I wasn't chaos. Proof I wasn't the daughter who couldn't get her life together. Should I tell them now? Show them what I'd built? Something stopped me. Pride, maybe. Or caution. A voice that said they needed to see me first before they could see my success. I practiced my smile in the bathroom mirror. The one that said everything was fine. The one that hid hurt behind politeness. You can do this, I whispered. Just dinner. Help Dad recover. Then you're done. But looking at my reflection, I knew something was coming. Could feel it in my bones the way you feel storms before they arrive. This visit wouldn't be simple. Nothing with my family ever was. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Behind me, the house stood quiet. Waiting. A monument to everything I'd become that they didn't know about yet. The drive to their place took 40 minutes. Every mile felt heavier than the last. When I pulled into their driveway, I saw Rowena's car already there.
Perfect. Shiny.
Parked like she owned the place. I sat for a moment, engine off, staring at the house I grew up in. The one that always felt more like a museum than a home. Where everything had to be perfect. Presentable.
Right.
Then I grabbed my bag and walked inside. I didn't know that night would test everything I'd rebuilt. Have you ever returned home and realized you'd outgrown it? Comment below. The house smelled exactly like I remembered. Lavender air freshener mixed with furniture polish and something baking in the oven. Everything in its place. Everything controlled. Mom met me at the door with a hug that felt more obligatory than warm. Elara, sweetheart. So good of you to come. Dad was in his recliner, leg propped up, remote in hand. He nodded when I walked in. Hey, kiddo.
Kiddo.
Like I was still 12 and not a woman who'd built an empire they knew nothing about. Rowena was already settled on the couch, wine glass in hand, looking like she'd stepped out of a catalog. Her husband sat beside her, scrolling through his phone. Elara, Rowena said with that smile. The one that looked friendly, but felt like assessment. Long time.
Yeah.
Been busy. Doing what exactly? Her tone was light. Curious.
Cutting.
Projects here and there. Freelance stuff. Mom brought out cheese and crackers on a tray. Well, it's wonderful you could take time to help your father. Family comes first. The implication hung there. That I'd been neglecting them. That I'd been off doing whatever unimportant things I did while they handled real life. I bit my tongue. Smiled. Helped myself to crackers I didn't want. Over the next few days, I fell into the rhythm of their world. Making meals. Helping Dad to appointments. Listening to Mom talk about church gossip and Rowena's latest accomplishments. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield. One wrong step, and I'd trigger that look. The disappointed one. The, we expected more from you. Expression I knew so well. But I stayed quiet. Helped. Played the part of dutiful daughter. Then came the dinner invitation. Mom insisted on having everyone over. A proper family meal. To celebrate Dad's recovery and having you home. I should have known better. Should have felt the setup coming. The night of the dinner, I stood in front of my childhood bedroom mirror, practicing. The smile that hid everything. The posture that said I was fine. The mask I'd worn for years. Just get through tonight, I whispered to my reflection. Then you can go back to your real life. But something felt different this time. Heavier. Like the universe was winding up for something big. I chose my outfit carefully. Jeans and a white blouse. Comfortable. Not trying too hard. Not competing with Rowena's designer dresses and perfect hair. When I came downstairs, the dining room was already set. Mom's good china. Matching silverware. Classical music playing softly from the speakers she'd placed just so. Rowena arrived looking flawless. Her husband carried a bottle of expensive wine. They took their seats like royalty at court. I sat across from them, feeling the familiar weight of being less than. The daughter who didn't measure up. The one who made questionable choices and couldn't seem to land on her feet.
Dad poured wine.
Mom brought out the first course. Everything was perfect on the surface. But underneath, I could feel it building. That old tension crackling like electricity before lightning strikes. The conversation started safe. Weather. Dad's recovery. Rowena's new house. Then Dad leaned forward, asked about the pool, and Rowena lit up. Talked about contractors and landscaping, and all the expensive choices she'd made. Mom beamed. You've done so well, sweetheart. We're so proud. I cut into my chicken. Chewed slowly. Kept my face neutral. Then Mom mentioned the guest room. The one they were preparing. Just in case I needed somewhere to stay. The implication was clear. When my life fell apart again. When I inevitably failed. They'd have a room waiting. I have a place, I said again. Dad nodded, that dismissive gesture that said he didn't believe me. For now. Something inside me started to shift. The careful control I'd maintained all week began cracking. Not yet, I told myself.
Wait.
Mom stood to refill her glass. And that's when Dad made his mistake. He leaned toward Rowena, voice dropping to what he thought was a whisper. But I was right there. 3 feet away. Perfectly able to hear every word. Living with her will be chaos. You know how she is. Unpredictable, emotional. She'll drain you. Rowena's soft laugh. I know, Dad. Don't worry. I'm not offering. The words landed like punches. Each one finding the exact places I was already bruised. But this time, instead of shrinking, something inside me straightened. Hardened. Became steel. I smiled. Small. Quiet. the kind nobody notices. Because after 2 years of silence, of building and proving and becoming someone they couldn't imagine, the moment to speak had finally arrived. I didn't know that night would test everything I'd rebuilt. But I was about to find out. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? Tell us your story below. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of forced smiles and careful words. Rowena talked about her interior decorator. Mom praised her taste. Dad nodded approvingly at every expensive choice my sister mentioned. I just listened.
Cut my food.
Waited. The insults kept coming, wrapped in jokes and casual comments. Mom mentioned my phase of corporate work. Rowena asked if I'd thought about going back to school. Dad wondered aloud if I'd considered something more stable. Each comment was a test. Would I defend myself? Would I get emotional? Would I prove them right about me being chaos? I stayed calm, smiled, gave non-committal answers that meant nothing. Inside, though, I was calculating, deciding how to reveal what I'd built, how to shatter their assumptions without being cruel, how to prove them wrong while maintaining dignity. Mom brought out dessert, her famous lemon pie, the one she made for celebrations and subtle humiliations. Remember when Alara tried to bake? Mom said, cutting perfect slices. That cake looked like it had been through a war zone. More laughter.
Light.
Careless. The kind that doesn't realize it's cutting. This was my moment. Actually, I said, voice steady. Baking turned out fine. But design went better. Dad glanced up. Design? I pulled out my phone, slid it across the table toward Rowena. That's a project I finished last week. She picked it up, eyes scanning the screen. Then they went wide. Really wide.
Wait.
This is your work.
Yeah.
Lake house renovation. Client wanted full creative control. Mom leaned over, squinting at the photos. Her expression shifted from polite interest to genuine shock. Alara, this looks like the Rivera estate. That's because it was, I said calmly. Before they sold it, I redesigned and staged the entire property. Dad's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. The Rivera estate? That place was worth millions. For million, to be exact. That's what it sold for. The room went completely silent. The kind of silence that rings in your ears and makes time feel slower. Rowena's husband set down his wine glass. You did this? By yourself? With my team, yeah. I run a design firm. Have for almost 2 years now. Mom's hand trembled slightly as she set down the pie server. A firm? You never mentioned. Nobody asked, I said simply. Not bitter. Just factual. Dad leaned back in his chair, studying me like I was a stranger. How big is this firm? 10 employees. We handle high-end residential properties. Luxury staging. Complete renovations. Rowena was still scrolling through my phone, seeing project after project. Her face had gone pale. These are all yours? Every one. The power in the room had shifted. I could feel it like a physical thing. The daughter they'd written off was suddenly someone they didn't recognize. Mom cleared her throat. Well, that's wonderful, sweetheart. We had no idea you were doing so well. I know. Dad's eyes narrowed slightly. You said you bought something with a profit? This was it. The moment I'd been building toward.
Yeah.
Remember the old farmhouse at Willow Creek? His face went through several emotions. Confusion, recognition, then something that looked like fear. The one we sold years ago? That's the one. Alara, that property was worthless. Completely run down. I took a slow sip of water. Let the tension build. Not anymore. What do you mean? Rowena's voice had gone tight. I bought it back. 6 months ago. Renovated the entire thing. Updated everything while keeping the original character intact. Mom blinked rapidly. But that would cost. A lot, I agreed. Good thing I had the money. Dad set down his fork. His hands weren't quite steady. How much is it worth now? 1.3 million, according to the last appraisal. The silence that followed was deafening. Rowena's husband spoke first. Wait, you're saying you own that property?
Outright?
No mortgage. No loans. Paid in cash. I looked directly at Dad. I live there now. His mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. No words came out. Mom's perfect composure had cracked completely. Alara, why didn't you tell us? We had no idea. You never asked, I repeated. Gentle but firm. For 2 years, nobody asked what I was doing. Just assumed I was failing. Rowena was staring at her plate now, unable to meet my eyes. The classical music kept playing. The candles kept flickering. But everything had changed. I stood slowly, gathering my purse. Thank you for dinner. The pie was lovely, Mom. Alara, wait. Mom's voice cracked. I paused at the dining room doorway, looked back at all of them, at the shock and confusion and dawning realization on their faces. You said living with me would be chaos, Dad. My voice stayed calm. Even. Maybe you were right, but it's the kind of chaos that builds things. That takes what everyone gave up on and makes it beautiful again. I walked to the front door. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping, voices calling my name. But I didn't stop, didn't look back. I got in my car and drove home to the house they'd abandoned, the one I'd made whole again. My phone started buzzing before I even pulled out of the driveway. Have you ever had a moment where you proved everyone wrong? Drop your story below. The drive home felt longer than 40 minutes. Every mile, my phone kept lighting up. Calls, texts, all from my family. I ignored them. Needed silence. Needed to process what just happened. When I pulled into my driveway, the house looked beautiful in the moonlight. Every window I'd chosen. Every board I'd restored. Every detail I'd perfected. Mine. Inside, I poured myself tea and sat by the fireplace I'd rebuilt with my own hands. The flames cast shadows on walls I'd painted, created warmth in spaces I'd designed for exactly this. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. Mom, Alara, please call us. We need to talk.
Dad, I didn't know.
We didn't know.
Please.
Rowena, can we talk tomorrow? I think we owe you an apology. I stared at the messages for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond immediately, to accept their shock as victory enough. But another part, the part that had carried hurt for years, wasn't ready. I set the phone face down and closed my eyes. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my bedroom windows, the ones that overlooked Willow Creek. I designed this room to wake up to beauty, to start each day reminded of what I'd overcome. My phone showed 17 missed calls. I made coffee in my restored kitchen, sat at the island I'd custom-built, watched the creek flow past while deciding what came next. Finally, I picked up the phone, typed slowly, choosing each word carefully. I need some time. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Then I turned off my phone completely. For 3 days, I worked, threw myself into new projects, met with clients, managed my team, lived the life I'd built in the silence they'd mistaken for failure. But at night, alone in my beautiful house, their words echoed. Living with her will be chaos. She'll drain you. Unpredictable. Emotional. On the 4th day, my phone powered back on to 43 messages. Most were from Mom. Apologies. Explanations. Promises to do better. Each one sounded genuine. Desperate, even. Dad's messages were shorter. Awkward. But present. Rowena had sent one long text. I'm sorry. I've been thinking about what happened. About how we treated you. How I treated you. You deserved better. I deserved a better sister than I was to you. Can we try again? I read it 3 times. Felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly. But something softer than anger. That evening, I replied to Mom, you can come for coffee. Saturday. 10 a.m., just you. Her response came within seconds. I'll be there. Thank you. Saturday morning, I watched from my window as Mom's car pulled up. She sat there for a full minute before getting out, looking at the house, taking it in. When she knocked, I opened the door to find her crying. Oh, Alara, what you've done here. I let her in, made coffee in my kitchen while she walked through rooms, touching walls, studying details. She kept crying. Quiet tears that said more than words could. Finally, she sat on my island, hands wrapped around her mug. I'm so sorry. I know. We were awful. I was awful. I thought, her voice broke. I thought we were protecting you, preparing you for reality. But we were just tearing you down. I stayed quiet. Let her talk. Your father is devastated. He hasn't slept since that dinner. Keeps saying he failed you. That we both did. You did, I said simply. Not cruel. Just honest. She nodded, accepting it. Can we fix this? Is it too late? I looked around my house. At everything I'd built without them.
Despite them.
I don't know, I admitted. But we can try. Mom reached across the island, hand extended. I looked at it for a moment before taking it. Her grip was tight, desperate.
Real.
Over the next weeks, things shifted slowly. Mom called regularly, actually asked questions, listened to answers, learned about my work, my life, my dreams. Dad came by one afternoon with a box, old drafting tools that had belonged to his father. Thought you might want these, he said gruffly, for your work. I kept them on my desk, not as a trophy, as a bridge. Rowena visited too, brought flowers, walked through every room, said things like, "This is incredible, and I'm proud of you," and meant them. The hurt didn't disappear overnight. Some wounds run too deep for quick healing. But slowly, carefully, we started building something new. One evening, Mom called. There's a feature article.
About you.
In Design magazine. Did you know? I hadn't. But when I found it online, there I was. Full spread. Photos of my projects. Interview about my journey. Mom's voice shook. We framed it. It's in our living room now, right where everyone can see it. Something in my chest loosened. Finally. How did you rebuild broken family relationships? Share your experience below. 6 months after that dinner, I stood in my living room looking at a magazine with my face on the cover. Local designer transforms abandoned properties into million-dollar homes. The article was good, professional, captured my journey without making it melodramatic. But the best part was the quote they'd pulled for the headline. I take what others give up on and prove it's worth saving.
My phone rang. Mom.
Have you seen it? The magazine? Looking at it now. Her voice was thick with emotion. Alara, I can't tell you how proud we are. We showed everyone at church. Mrs. Patterson couldn't stop talking about it. Mrs. Patterson, the same woman who'd pitted my mother 2 years ago for having such a disappointing daughter. That's nice, Mom. Will you come for dinner soon? Your father wants to celebrate. Properly this time. I hesitated. The last family dinner hadn't exactly gone well. Please, Mom added. We'll do better. I promise. Okay, next Saturday. This time, the dinner was different. Rowena helped cook. Dad set the table without being asked. Nobody made comparisons or subtle digs about my choices. We talked about my work, about new projects, about the team I was building. They listened. Really listened. At one point, Dad cleared his throat. You know, when we sold that farmhouse, I thought I was making the smart choice. Cutting losses. Moving on. He looked at me directly. Turns out I was wrong. About the house. About a lot of things. It's okay, Dad. It's not, he said firmly. But we're trying to do better. After dinner, Rowena pulled me aside. I've been thinking about your business model. I might know some clients who'd be perfect for you.
Yeah.
And maybe we could collaborate sometime? My marketing background, your design expertise? I studied her face, saw genuine interest there, real desire to connect. Let's talk about it, I said. Over the next year, things continued to shift. My business expanded. I hired more people, took on bigger projects, made a name for myself in the luxury design world. But more importantly, my family started becoming people I actually wanted to spend time with. Mom and I had coffee every other week. Real conversations about life, not just surface-level pleasantries. Dad sent me articles about design trends. Sometimes called just to say he'd seen one of my projects featured somewhere. Rowena and I started meeting for lunch. talking about work, life, dreams, building something that felt like actual sisterhood. The magazine feature led to more press, then speaking engagements, design awards, recognition I'd never imagined when I was sitting in my tiny apartment eating ramen and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. 2 years after that fateful dinner, I stood on stage accepting an award for excellence in residential design. In the audience, I could see them,
Mom, Dad.
Rowena, all watching with genuine pride. My acceptance speech was short. I want to thank everyone who believed in me, and everyone who didn't. Both taught me important lessons. Afterwards, at the reception, a young woman approached me, early 20s, nervous energy. Ms. Mendez? I just wanted to say thank you. I read your story about being fired, starting over, proving everyone wrong. I'm going through something similar right now, and your story gave me hope. I took her hand. What's your name? Jessica. Jessica, here's what I learned. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right, about knowing your worth even when nobody else sees it. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I really needed to hear that. After she walked away, Mom came up beside me. That was beautiful. Just passing on what I learned. She squeezed my hand. We're so proud of you. Not because of the awards or the money or the magazine features, but because of who you've become despite everything. Because of everything. I corrected gently. The hard parts made me who I am. That night, driving home to my farmhouse, I thought about the journey, about the girl who'd been fired and humiliated, about the woman who'd built something from nothing, about the daughter who'd finally earned her family's respect, not because she'd changed who she was, but because she'd become more fully herself than ever before. What's the biggest comeback you've ever made? Tell us below. 5 years after that dinner, I stood in my kitchen watching the sun rise over Willow Creek, coffee in hand, peace in my heart. My business had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. 30 employees, projects in 6 states, a reputation that brought clients from across the country. But the real success was quieter,
Deeper.
my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Coming by later with lunch. Dad wants to see your new project plans. I smiled. This had become normal. Family dropping by. Actually interested in my work. Actually part of my life in meaningful ways. The hurt from those years of dismissal had faded. Not erased, but transformed into something else. Understanding, maybe. Acceptance of the past while building something better in the present. Rowena and I had lunch every week now. Sometimes talked about work. Sometimes just about life. She'd started her own business too, inspired by watching me build mine. We'd collaborated on several projects, combining her marketing genius with my design expertise. Dad had become my unofficial advisor. Would review my business plans, offer suggestions based on his own entrepreneurial experiences. Not commanding, just supporting. Mom had turned into my biggest promoter. Carried business cards everywhere. Recommended me to everyone. Made up for lost time by being present now. Last month, they'd all shown up at my office for the ribbon-cutting ceremony when I opened a second location. Dad cut the ribbon. Mom cried happy tears. Rowena posted about it with genuine pride. A new magazine article came out that morning. This one focused on family dynamics and redemption. They'd interviewed all of us. Mom's quote made me cry. I almost miss seeing my daughter become extraordinary because I was too busy trying to make her ordinary. That's my greatest regret and my biggest lesson. Dad's was simpler. She took what I gave up on and made it beautiful, including our relationship. Rowena's captured our journey. My sister taught me that success isn't about following everyone else's path. It's about having the courage to build your own. Mine closed the article. They called me chaos. They were right. But chaos isn't destruction. It's transformation. It's taking broken things and making them whole. It's refusing to let anyone else's limitations become your ceiling. The article went viral. Generated thousands of comments from people sharing their own family reconciliation stories. their own journeys from being underestimated to becoming undeniable. That evening, I hosted a dinner at my house.
The whole family.
We gathered around the custom table I'd built in the renovated dining room. As we ate and laughed and told stories, I looked around at these people who'd hurt me and then healed with me, who'd learned and grown and become better versions of themselves. I'm grateful, I said suddenly.
Everyone looked at me.
For all of it. The hurt, the healing, the journey. Because it made this moment possible. Dad raised his glass.
To Alara,
Who taught us what real strength looks like. We clinked glasses.
drank.
Smiled. Later, after everyone left, I sat alone in my living room. The same room where I'd cried after reading Mom's first apologetic text. The same space where I decided to let them try again. My phone buzzed. An email from a potential client. Another big project. Another opportunity. But I set it aside for tomorrow. Tonight was for reflection. For gratitude. For peace. Because I'd learned something important through all of this. Justice doesn't have to be loud or vengeful or destructive. Sometimes the sweetest kind is quiet. The kind that transforms rather than destroys. The kind that teaches rather than punishes. They'd called me chaos. They were right. But chaos isn't random destruction. It's the necessary disruption that rebuilds what's broken. The storm that clears the air. The force that refuses to accept things as they are and demands they become what they should be. I brought chaos to my family, not to hurt them, but to wake them up, to show them a different way, to prove that love doesn't mean conformity and success doesn't mean following someone else's script. And in the process, I'd rebuilt more than houses. I'd rebuilt us. The farmhouse at Willow Creek stood solid around me. Walls I'd restored. Floors I'd refinished. Windows I'd replaced. Every detail a testament to what's possible when you refuse to give up on something worth saving, even when everyone else already has. My story wasn't about revenge. It was about redemption. Not just mine.
Ours.
And maybe that's what justice really looks like when it's wearing peace. When it's choosing to build rather than destroy. To teach rather than punish. To transform rather than eliminate. I used to think I needed to prove them wrong. Turns out, I just needed to prove myself right. The rest followed naturally. So when people call me chaos now, I smile. Because they're seeing what I've always known. That sometimes you have to disrupt everything to create something real. Something lasting. Something true. And that's not chaos at all. That's just what love looks like when it finally learns to listen. Thank you for joining us on Alara's journey. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next inspiring tale. Drop a comment below sharing your own story of transformation and overcoming doubt. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Let's build a community of people who refuse to let others define their worth. See you in the next story, and remember, you're capable of more than anyone else's limitations suggest.